Sounds Good is sponsored by Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it is the easiest way to make a podcast. When we were first getting started, getting ready to launch Sounds Good in 2015, making a podcast was hard. But now, thanks to Anchor, making a podcast is not only easy, it is fun. Anchor's creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and basically everywhere else. And you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Plus, now you can add any song from Spotify directly to your episodes. Even if you're an OG podcast like ours, you can record and produce your show like you always have, but use Anchor as your host. You'll save money, have a superior hosting experience, and get advanced analytics. Anchor has everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. There's a lot of bad news in the world, but for every piece of bad news, there is also someone stepping up to create a solution, to make a difference or enact change. And at Good, we look for those helpers. Sometimes they are hard to find. Sometimes they're just hidden in plain sight. And then we elevate those stories. We elevate the good that they are doing so that we can feel more hopeful about the state of the world, but more so that we can all find some way, big or small, to get involved and be a part of this good work. We share a lot of good news on this podcast, but we also share so much more good news in our print newspaper, the Goodnewspaper. Every month, Good members get a newspaper delivered to their doorstep full of hope and ways to make a meaningful difference. And there's truly nothing like slowing down with a beautiful print newspaper and soaking up nothing but good news. Today on the podcast, we are sharing some of our favorite good news stories we've published in print this year. This is Sounds Good. I'm Branden Harvey. Today, I am joined by the Goodnewspaper's managing editor, Kailey Thompson. She helps bring to life the newspaper that inspires, informs, and challenges us to celebrate good news and become good news. We're going to be sharing some of our favorite good news stories we reported in 2021 so far. One story from each issue of the Goodnewspaper that's come out this year. These stories are a reminder that there is a lot of good in the world, and some of it is hidden or unconventional, but it is always there if you look for it. And we are here to help you look for it. And of course, once we find it, then we get to celebrate it, we get to share it, and we get to join in and choose to be a part of it. If you like what you hear during this episode, you will love getting a print good newspaper in real life. Just click the link in our show notes to go directly to goodgoodgood.co and sign up to become a Good member and join thousands of people who already get a print good newspaper delivered straight to their home each month. All right, I'm so excited about this episode. Let's jump straight into some good news. Kailey, it is so fun to have you back on the podcast. Welcome to Sounds Good.
Thanks, Branden. Glad to be here.
So we are almost, not quite, but almost halfway through 2021, which feels wild, to be honest. And we make a print newspaper filled with good news every single month, which is such a labor of love. It's so fun. And every issue has so many good news stories. And I wanted everybody who listens to the podcast to be able to hear a few of our favorite news stories from the last 6 months. And so I'm excited to have you here to kind of dive into some good news.
Me too. So we are, again, halfway through the year. Somehow I don't know how it's already almost June. The year's flying by, but we wanted to share with you all one story that we love from each of this year's editions of the Goodnewspaper. So we're excited to dive in and share that good news with you all.
I can start off with the first issue of 2021, which was the Helpers Edition. We do the Helpers Edition every year. It celebrates people who live up to that wonderful quote from Mr. Rogers where he said, when I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping. And so the helper that I want to celebrate from the Helpers Edition is this incredible young lady, Kailey Thompson. She is 8 years old. She lives in Atlanta, Georgia, and she was surprised when she went to her first day of kindergarten and she noticed that many of her classmates didn't know their ABCs. And so she goes and talks with her parents, which Kailey, I don't think I told you this. I just realized this while rereading this. I've met her parents.
What?
I met her parents in Atlanta at a conference called Plywood Presents, which is filled with amazing nonprofits and world changers. And I didn't realize it till just now. I've met her parents. They're incredible.
That's so cool.
So anyway, so Kailey tells her parents, and her parents decided to use this as a teachable moment to explain that kids come from different backgrounds. And so they said, what do you want to do about it? And she said, I want to give away 2 million books so that everybody will have access to books so they can learn to read. And it's incredible. They ended up founding a nonprofit called the Empowered Readers Literacy Project, and it helps families build strong reading rituals and inspires kids to get excited about reading. They've already donated thousands of books, and it's just so cool to see this little family project become something that impacts so many people. And their website is empoweredreaders.org if anybody wants to go check out what they're doing or donate to support books being donated across the world.
That is so cool, Branden. I want to meet her. She sounds like such an awesome kid, and I love the ambition of this project. And also, we have the same last name, so I wonder if we're related somehow.
Yes, I love to imagine that.
Yeah, that would be cool. Sweet. So the second issue of the Good Newspaper this year was the Sustainability Edition, which I love. This is actually the second time we've done this edition, and I always have so much fun looking into these stories and writing them. One story that I want to highlight is the great news that for the first time in the last 130 years, renewable energy in the U.S. surpassed coal consumption. So this was in 2019. A report came out from the U.S. Energy Information Administration, and they found that annual energy consumption that year from renewable sources exceeded coal consumption for the first time since the 1880s.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really, really awesome, and it's something that we've been looking forward to. So a couple reasons behind this. There's been a growth in renewables. Renewable energy is a lot cheaper now. And most of this was found in wind and solar energy. And there was actually a really big decrease from 2018 to 2019. So from 2018 to 2019, coal consumption dropped by nearly 15%. And that was the sixth year in a row that it dropped.
I love that this is just good news, that it is just becoming more accessible to choose renewable energy over harmful energy that's bad for the environment. And I think there's a lot of people who are intentionally choosing to pay more for sustainable energy, but now you basically don't have a choice. Like you basically should choose the renewable option because it's more cost effective.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I think this is something that we've been hoping for a really long time. And now it also just makes sense. Like we needed it to be cheaper for it to happen on a mass scale. And now it is, because it makes sense financially for individuals, for companies. And so fossil fuels are on the way out. That's just the way the world is moving. And it definitely helps that it's cheaper now.
The more innovation that we see on that front, the cheaper it'll get and the more that will change. So we're hopeful for more of that to come. Actually, this is a really good transition. I didn't even plan this, but I have another sustainability story, but it's a little bit unconventional. This is from the women edition of the Good Newspaper. This was such a special one, getting to highlight women doing good and people doing good for women. And this story takes us to Yemen, where a group of women in Yemen have built and are now managing their own solar microgrid. And oh my gosh, it's just such a cool story because sure, it's a little bit of a sustainability story, but the way that I see it, it's so much more than that. It's a jobs story and it's a community story. So with the assistance from the United Nations Development Program, 10 women began this project of trying to provide affordable energy to their community where they were living near a war zone. It wasn't super accessible to get power where they were at. And so this solar powered energy grid was the best option. And since they've started this, they've been able to replicate the project and build 100 microgrids across the country, which ultimately employs local women and people displaced by the civil war. Right now, women make up just 7% of Yemen's workforce, according to the BBC. And basically, this is creating career opportunities for women that didn't exist before. And they just so happen to also be renewable, sustainable energy. With, people living in poor countries, I honestly don't think that it's a big priority that we force people who are already living in poverty to be choosing, renewable options. I think that us as people of, immense privilege in more wealthy countries, we should be doing a lot of that work to fight climate change and just allow people who are in countries dealing with conflict and different things to be able to just focus on meeting the current needs that they have. But it's really cool when we have this opportunity to just do both, providing opportunities for women, providing sustainable energy for people, and supporting the communities that they live in.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I think that it's so great that it just happened to be renewable energy. I mean, that's something to celebrate, and it makes sense given the story we just talked about that it makes financial sense. So it's really a win for the women who are working on the project. It's a win for the community, and it's a win for the environment. So that's some good news for sure.
We love to see it.
Love to see it. Okay, so Branden, the next issue is really special to my heart. It's the mental health edition, and I'm going to share a mental health research story, which I just really geek out over. So these neuroscientists out of the UK discovered a song that can reduce your anxiety by, get this, up to 65%.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and as an anxious person, this is huge. So the song is called Weightless, and it's by Marconi Union. The neuroscientists who led this study found that it reduced participants' anxiety. And the way that they studied it was they had these study participants solving difficult puzzles as quickly as possible. And they were connected to sensors while they were doing these puzzles. The puzzles were meant to cause a certain level of stress. And so they had these participants listening to different songs while they were attempting these puzzles. And so they were tracking their heart rate, their blood pressure, and their breathing. And they found that this song just enhanced their well-being and caused them to relax. So I think that's really cool. It's been proven to reduce anxiety even when you're working on something difficult, when you're facing a challenge. And what's also really cool, Branden, is that the song was actually designed to work this way. So this band worked with sound therapists to carefully arrange the harmonies and the rhythms and the bass lines to intentionally slow the listener's heart rate, reduce blood pressure, and lower cortisol. So it's really cool. I'm somebody who really likes to listen to music while I'm working during the day, and I found a 10-hour version of this song.
That's incredible.
I know, it's on YouTube. So again, the song is called Weightless by Marconi Union, and it's been proven, science has proven that this song can help reduce anxiety. So if you're feeling stressed out, or if you just are like me and you like to listen to some relaxing music while you're working, definitely look it up on YouTube.
And actually, that song that you're hearing in the background right now is Weightless. So this is a little taster, if you will. Now that you are sufficiently relaxed from that song, here is an ad from our partners. I'm so sorry the timing worked out like that. It's great. We truly do love our partners and we appreciate their support. We'll be right back with more good news stories right after this. Sounds Good is sponsored by Libro FM. Libro FM is the company that lets you support a local bookstore every time you download an audiobook. Libro FM members get one audiobook credit per month for $14.99, and you can use it on any audiobook you want. When you download audiobooks through Libro FM, you get to support a local bookstore of your choosing. It's really fun to kind of go on the map, look at all your options, pick out which bookstore you want to support. For me, I chose Broadway Books, a cute little small bookstore down the street from my old house now. And it feels so good that every single time that I download an audiobook, I'm keeping money within my local economy, my neighborhood, I'm creating local jobs, and I'm making a difference in my community. A quick little update on what I'm listening to via Libro FM right now. I just downloaded Maya Angelou's book, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. I haven't started it yet, but what I'm really excited about is that she actually does the narration. So I get to hear her voice saying her words in the way that she thought of them in her mind. I am so excited about this. And I also picked up this new book called On Juneteenth by a Pulitzer Prize winning author. And for me, I'm just trying to better understand Juneteenth ahead of the upcoming holiday. And I feel like audiobooks are a great way for me to absorb new information. For me, I sometimes get a little stuck reading print. So audiobooks just help move my brain along in a really unique way. And I love it. I'm so excited. As a special offer for Sounds Good listeners, Libro FM is offering 2 audiobooks for the price of 1 with your first month of membership with the code GOOD. All you have to do is visit the website libro.fm, that's libro.fm, and use the promo code GOOD to get started with 2 audiobooks to support your community and to support this show. Sounds Good is sponsored by BetterHelp. Whether you feel overwhelmed by the news, you're working through interpersonal relationships, unpacking trauma, or just need someone to talk to. We all need to have somebody that we can talk to. BetterHelp is a fantastic solution for you. And I know that because it has been a fantastic solution for me. BetterHelp makes it so easy to get matched with your own licensed professional therapist. Plus, it is affordable and financial aid is available. You can get started today by answering a few questions about yourself and what kind of therapist you're looking for, and they'll get you matched with your perfect BetterHelp counselor and get ready to start in under 48 hours. And here's the great thing. If you don't love your therapist, or after a while, if you're ready to find somebody with a different kind of expertise or who can focus on something else that you care about, you can change your therapist anytime, no strings attached. BetterHelp is offering a special offer for Sounds Good listeners. You can get 10% off your first month when you take the quiz to get started at betterhelp.com/good. One more time, that's betterhelp.com/good.
I feel like the scientists also need to tell me the songs that made people more anxious, and I need to go block those in my Spotify.
Yeah, I imagine it's maybe some heavy metal or something. I don't know.
Okay, so the next issue that we put out into the world is the Pride edition. I loved this issue. We got to bring on so many incredible collaborators and contributors. It's a really, really special issue. I can't wait for everybody to get to dive into it. But one of the stories that I was so excited about actually came from a Good member. One of my favorite things is that the people who become Good members have great, thoughtful taste in good news stories. And so whenever people submit stories or share just something that they're working on or passionate about, I really try to listen. I know Kailey tries to listen. And so this story actually came from Kira Evans in the Good community because she participates in this. There is a group of weightlifters, like gym people who lift heavy objects. Clearly, I'm not one of them, who support the LGBTQ community through this creative annual fundraiser all across the United States. So ever since June 2017, athletes in the US and Canada have participated in this, international deadlift party to raise money for nonprofits that support the LGBTQ community. The event is called Pull for Pride, and it was founded in response to just rampant discrimination and exclusion for transgender, gender nonconforming, intersex, and non-binary athletes from kind of the strength sports world of things. And so they created this event where athletes of all gender identities and expressions, sexes, sexual orientations, races, religions, ages, and abilities are welcome to lift. And in the first year, the group raised more than $30,000 for LGBTQ plus centered nonprofits. And to date, they've raised more than $250,000, all through just like thoughtful, inclusive weightlifting. And it's just so cool to see, the photos on the website. It's so cool to see that this community of again, weightlifters, which like, I just feel like that's so foreign to me. I'm like just this scrawny, skinny guy. Like they took this unique passion and talent and ability that they had, and they said, let's do some good with this. Let's support this community. And they've been doing it for going on 4 or 5 years now.
That's really cool. I think my favorite thing about that story is this idea that you can combine your passions and do good. So if you're really into weightlifting or whatever your hobby or your passion is, but you're also really passionate about, in this case, the LGBTQ plus community or whatever it may be, sustainability or any of these other things that we cover at Good, you can combine those passions and those interests and end up doing good in both communities. I mean, I'm sure it brought the participants of this deadlift party together, and they also did good for the LGBTQ plus community. So that's really, really cool.
It's just so fun to see. Thank you so much, Kira, for setting this in.
Yes, thank you, Kira. I want to hug all of you who are in the Good community, and I love that you're sharing these stories. So
this next issue of the Goodnewspaper actually comes out in June. Right now it's May. And in an effort to not spoil what the theme of the paper is, we're not going to say what the theme is. But this, if you were to subscribe to the paper today, this would be the first issue you get. And we are going to share, one story from this issue. So treat it as like a little sneak peek or a hint at what the theme is. I'll also add that this is among our most requested themes that we get when people are saying, you should do an issue about this. I really want to read more stories about this. So with that in mind, Kailey, what is your favorite story from this upcoming issue of the paper?
Okay, so this story is an example of finding creative solutions to problems affecting the world. So the whole idea is that noise reduction can actually save marine life and animals who live in the ocean. This is something that I didn't really know a lot about until I was researching it and writing this story. But sound is really, really, really important for marine life. Sound is really, really important for marine life. Sound travels farther and faster underwater than in air, which I didn't know. It's really important for animals to communicate, navigate, find food, meet a mate, detect predators. But there's actually been some problems. So there are high levels of noise from shipping, oil and gas exploration, naval sonar training, and construction that drown out the ocean's natural sounds. In the Pacific Ocean alone, shipping noise has actually doubled every decade over the last 40 years. And it actually really impacts the animals who live in the ocean. So, for example, for blue whales, they have lost their ability to communicate by as much as 90%.
Whoa.
Just because there's so much other noise in the ocean, they can't hear each other. And it actually has a major impact on especially endangered species because they can't breed as well when they can't find each other. Okay, so we know marine noise is a problem, and it's actually one that we can tackle pretty quickly and easily. You can reroute shipping lanes and redesign propellers, and some people are actually making these changes. There was a 2018 study by the co-founder of Oceans Initiative, which is a conservation group, and it's by the co-founder, Rob Williams. He found that for a modern fleet of ships, most of the noise comes from a really small percentage. So it actually wouldn't be that hard to address these problems by just tackling the worst offenders. It could go a really long way. So in Europe, national legislation requires countries to demonstrate that they are reducing underwater noise. And some companies, including this Danish shipping company called Maersk, I hope I'm saying that right, spent more than $100 million a few years ago to retrofit their hulls and install more efficient propellers, which actually made a massive difference. It reduced acoustic energy by 75%. And it's important to say here, Branden, that a lot of these changes are voluntary, but in Canada, the Vancouver Port Authority is offering discounted rates for quieter ships. So there's actually a financial incentive.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So additionally, you can move traffic on the ocean. So there's also another example in Canada where in the Haro Straits, they're asking ships to reroute away from killer whales and slow their speeds. And it makes a huge difference for the noise, and it also saves fuel. So the most encouraging thing that we can take from this story is that there are known solutions, effective ways to reduce the shipping noise. And it also goes right hand in hand with improving fuel efficiency, a lot of these changes. So I'm hopeful that a lot of companies will get on board in time.
That's amazing. And it's a win-win, it sounds like, where it maybe is saving these companies money, and it's allowing for our oceans to stay healthier, for the animals that live inside them to live longer. And I'm hopeful that by knowing better, we'll be able to do better and hopefully, create some incentives and maybe even some laws to ensure that this good continues to be done.
I'm really encouraged by this because just like with the fossil fuels story that we talked about earlier, whenever there are financial incentives to make these changes, it's much more likely to happen on a large scale. So that's exactly what we see here. So I'm hopeful.
I cannot believe that we're halfway through the year. And,
I know.
This is just a small percent of the good news stories that we've gotten to report on over the last 6 months. And I cannot wait to see what we get to put out into the world over the next 6 months.
Me too. So make sure you're subscribed and get that good news on your doorstep.
That's right. Kailey, thank you so much for being here today, for celebrating good news with me every day and here on the podcast today.
Such a pleasure. Thank you.
That's Kailey Thompson, the managing editor of the Goodnewspaper. If you want more stories like this, please subscribe to the Goodnewspaper at goodgoodgood.co, and you'll join a community of thousands of people who receive a beautiful print Goodnewspaper full of good news and opportunities to take action every single month. In addition to exclusive good news stories, the Goodnewspaper is also filled with practical and easily accessible action steps on how to get involved in the stories you just read. It has a beautiful fold-out centerfold poster with an inspiring quote in each issue. Every day we see people tag us on Instagram of them using it as decorations in their home or their office or their classroom, whatever it is. It is so fun to see the creative ways that people use their newspaper to fill their life with a little bit more hope. The newspaper also has this beautiful upside of being in print, which allows you to truly sink into the hopefulness in a unique way. Plus, each paper is printed on recycled paper using soy-based ink, and Good is 100% certified carbon neutral. We minimize and offset 100% of our environmental impact, so you can feel great about getting a newspaper in print rather than digital. One more time, you can become a Good member and get your monthly Good newspaper at our website, goodgoodgood.co. This podcast was created by Good. At Good, we help you feel more hopeful and do more good. This episode was created by Kailey Thompson, Megan Burns, and me, Branden Harvey, and it was edited and sound designed by the team at Sound On Studios. You can find out more about their work at soundonsoundoff.com. Make sure to hit the follow button wherever you listen to podcasts so that you can get new episodes of Sounds Good delivered straight to your phone every Monday while you sleep. If you have a favorite episode of the show, share it on your Instagram to share the word about celebrating good news and taking action. And with that, that is a wrap for this week's episode. Go out and share some good news with a friend, and we'll be back next week with more good news and good action. Sound good?